I remember the first day of the war, because England was expecting air raids, i.e. bombs dropped by the Germans. All over the country, air raid sirens were erected. They made a very distinctive woo noise. And as I was listening to the wireless with my father, it went off and we jumped up out of our skin. It was frightening when the raids began, because we lived 1 mile from the main train line to Liverpool. That was from London. And on that line, lots of supplies went up to the shipping port at Liverpool and Manchester. And we were likely to be hit. One night a bomb did fall on the house next door. Actually, all the pots and pans fell off the shelf above the kitchen sink. And my grandmother, who'd already been bombed out living in Peckham in South London, was living with us, and all the pans hit her hard on the head. My mother then decided, because the bombs were falling nearer and nearer, that I should go to the country to a school near Aylesbury, which is in Buckinghamshire, because the head of the school saw their dangers and arranged for as many boys as possible to go and live in Long Marston in an old vicarage in the country, well away from trouble. There were 30 of us. It was a great relief for my parents, and that was in 1941. We were away from the bustle of everyday life until 1944. The fields all around were filled then with tanks, Bren machine gun carriers, and soldiers living in tents. They were all ready for D-Day, and D-Day was the landings in 1944, which enabled us to fight through France and into Germany and finally beat Hitler. There were 6 landing beaches. You'll know that from your history books in the end. And the Brits landed on 2. My journeys by train from Long Marston were quite frightening, because at the weekends we were allowed sometimes to go home. But it meant that I went and got the train at Cheddington and went down to Watford and had to change trains. And there at night, where there were virtually no lights on the platforms, there was all the engines were steam and they were always hissing full smoke. When you're 10, it's fairly daunting. You change trains, and then I walked back to my station, from my station to my home, and that took about 15 minutes.
Why were there no lights, Grandpa?
Oh, sorry, why there were no lights? Oh, because of the bombers. The Germans, we instituted a full blackout through every city and village in the land, in the United Kingdom. Because if the lights were left on, then the German bombers knew that there were people down there. It was easier to direct themselves to where they wanted to go if they could recognize by a light where they were. So all the lights were extinguished, all the car headlamps had slatted covers over them, which directed the light from the headlights just down on the ground in front of the car. There was no long beam at all. With that came the gas masks, because they were very frightened that the Germans, they'd used gas in the First World War, they might use it in this war, in the Second War. And we were all issued with these gas masks, which were absolutely horrible rubber things with a big goggle over the eyes and a large sort of nose piece which filtered the air as you breathed in. It filtered any gas that was in the air outside, so that you breathed, as it were, fairly pure air. They stank of rubber, and they were absolutely foul. And seeing somebody walking to you with one on, when you were 10, 11, 12, was really very frightening. But they were not nice at all.
Everybody had one.
Yeah. Well, I was talking about radio in this brief note. So we used to, at school, because there was no television, we used to do quite a lot of singing, because the man who ran the headmaster actually was a musical composer and a very fine organist. And so we did a lot of singing, but I can remember every week ITMA Itmar was one of the famous comedy shows of the Second World War. It's that man again with a comedian called Tommy Handley. And I think the whole nation stopped. when Itmar came on every week. I mean, it was the highlight of laugh, and it made us all laugh when very often it was quite miserable. Oh, Mr. Peterson, sorry. Our food was very limited. There was no fruit. Each person got 2 ounces of butter and margarine a week. Now, 2 ounces is of the size of your Mars bar, suppose today. And my father, when I was at home, I'd see him do it. He'd get all the 6 ounces of butter from him and Mum and me, and 6 ounces of margarine go into one bowl. He'd whisk the whole lot up with a fork, and we knew that was what we had on our toast and bread until the following week. My mother always shopped on a Friday, so Friday night I remember, and so that's how it worked. To buy food in the war was interesting because food was rationed, and we all had a ration book, which was that sort of size, with lots and lots of coupons running through it. There'd be food coupons, shoe coupons, clothing coupons.
Sweet coupons.
Anyway, the coupons covered the aspect of everything we needed every day in our lives. And you only had so many, so that if you went to the butcher and you bought pork chops, he would then tear out 2 coupons, and that was probably your meat for the week. So you had to be very careful with absolutely everything that you got. I suppose potatoes, lots of people grew their own fruit. Granny was telling a story that they wanted to kill a pig when she was staying on a farm, but they weren't allowed to, because it would have meant that they had more meat than the people around them. So it was very strictly controlled. Sorry.
Reading.
Well, I haven't got much more to say.
Oh, that's fine.
Well, you'll edit this, won't you?
Yeah.
You can edit. Because there was so little coal available, all the coal went into the factories that were producing bombs and bullets and armour plating and all the things that were needed to either kill the enemy or protect our own fighting men. The coal was very short, and we could only bath or shower once a week. To save water, we were told to paint a line around the bath.
The Plimsoll line.
And it was known as the Plimsoll line. Well, you know the Plimsoll line was introduced in the 1860s by the government then to stop ships from overloading, because many ships sank. In fact, who's the Aldborough composer? Who was at
Britain.
Benjamin Britten wrote an opera based upon the Plimsoll line and the fact that people, the whole ship died, so the fishing boat died, and all the fishing village went into mourning. It made a very good opera.
Albert Herring.
Well done, Albert Herring, says Granny. Quite right. Well, I could go.
Any questions?
You can stop there for a moment.
And
What?
No, you're not short of bread, are you?
No? No, I'm just trying to see
well,
what
that
else.
was Grandpa talking about his experiences during the war. And next up, we have Granny.
Could you just introduce Grandpa with his name and when he was born? Perhaps, Grandpa, you'd like to tell us when you were born.
Okay, yes, for the record.
Bendy out the way.
My name is Ian Morton Peterson. I was born on the 23rd of May 1932, and
Where?
I'm talking to you now, nearly 81 years old. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much.